you're telling me I won't know how much I can get pre-approved for until I get pre-approved? But I know exactly how much I earn, and I know exactly what I can afford.
Yes, thank you for the question. Very, very common. So you know exactly how much your income level is. You know your exact earnings annually. Your earnings have been consistent over the course of the last few years. Um, and you are now, based on your knowledge of your own earnings, you're able to estimate with, in your opinion, a pretty high level of competency and accuracy. You're able to estimate, specifically speaking, how much a lender would loan to you. You kind of know what your pre-approved amount is going to be before getting the pre-approval. So why should you go and get pre-approved? Let's examine this, please. This is a very, very common belief, and it's very, very flawed. So let's say you're a high income producer. Your income potentiality is hovering in the area of $1 million a year. That's your annual earnings. But let's say your overhead is $950,000 a year. So, like for example, maybe you own a home and a couple vacation homes. Maybe you own yourself a boat or two. Maybe you've got a handful of cars. Maybe you've got a little bit of credit card debt. Maybe you've got some debt for some student loans. Maybe you have some personal loans going on. The taxes on all of the homes that you have, the insurance on the homes and the boats, all these things add up. Business expenses, right? And pre-approvals are reviewed not just on one's credit and income level. I mean, certainly those two facets are very, very important. They're very, very important variables. I'm not denying that. Certainly they are. But there's a much, much larger picture here. And pre-approvals are pretty much written based on a debt-to-income ratio. So if you're a high-income earner, if you're making $1 million a year, but your annual overhead is approximately $950,000 a year. I realize that this is somewhat of an atypical example, but I'm trying to illustrate. If you have high earnings, but you also have a high overhead, right? That can really play into it, and your idea of getting pre-approved at $1 million price point or whatever your belief system might be based on your income alone, it's just not necessarily accurate. The inverse can also be true. You may have in your mind that, you might make $500,000 a year. Again, I'm just making up some figures. Just walk with me a little bit. And you may very well believe that based on your earnings alone, you can buy a $600,000 or $700,000 home, right? But then when your lender and the underwriting team kind of get together and determine that your debt to income ratio allows you to buy an $800,000 or an $850,000 or a $900,000 home, you might be very, very happy to know that. Rather than driving around with me looking at cheaper homes, you might be able to expand your search a little bit and look at some more expensive homes based on the diligence done by the lender and the underwriting team. It might be a good idea to get pre-approved for that reason, to know where you're at, right? Because the difference between a $700,000 and a $900,000 home, it might be all the difference in the world for you. It might be better renovations in your opinion. It might be a better location in your opinion. It may meet 8 or 9 out of 10 of your important needs versus only 7 or so of your important needs. Like, it's very, very good to go ahead and get pre-approved regardless of how knowledgeable you are of your own income levels. And I'd like to make one more comment on this one, please. If you are a business owner, particularly if you are working in a cash business, like for example, if you are a restaurant owner and you have a lot of income that comes through sort of paid in cash or paid in check, and a lot of that is not claimed on the taxes or not shown on the taxes. These sorts of things happen, and we work with buyers like this quite regularly. You could be a business owner that's a high relatively high income business owner, maybe you're making, again, I'm making up numbers, maybe you're making $300,000 or $400,000 a year in your business, and you're feeling like that you're very successful, but actual on your actual tax returns, you're only claiming, again, I'm making up numbers, but you're only claiming $100,000 or $150,000. To that lender, regardless of how much money you've made that year, right? You're only claiming up to 100 or 150. In their eyes, that's what you made. And it doesn't matter if you made 3 or 4 or 500,000 or more. Okay, whatever you made on your tax returns, whatever's printed there, that to them is what you made. So you're going to be pre-approved based on 100 to 150,000, not 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever you actually made that year. It's not necessarily what you made, it's what you can prove. And so I think that that's a very, very important fact for all of us to recognize. So just knowing your income level, to summarize here, please, just knowing your income level does not necessarily dictate any sort of factual knowledgeability or predictability for what your pre-approval level is going to be. Thank you so much for listening.